Alright guys, yes, it's me, the mouth of the south of London. It's Delzinski, and today I want to talk about that big news coming out of TNA Impact Wrestling last night, that Taz has officially left the company and he is no longer a part of the broadcast team. Now, with that being the case, I'm putting the question out there right now: who will replace Taz? That is what I want to talk about in this commentary. But just to touch on Taz leaving TNA, I don't really think it's that big a deal for Taz, because I think he's done very well recently with his new podcast, the Human Podcast Machine, and I actually think he's moving on to bigger and better things. Now, there was talk that the rumour going around was that Taz had a disagreement with TNA, and that was on the basis that he was paid late, and other talent in the company was paid late as well. Well, if that is the case, then Taz has a real reason to have a gripe with TNA, because they really need to sort this out. This has happened one too many times, and they do need to fix this issue, because it's only going to upset other talent and lead to more departures. Now, as I said, Taz has the opportunity to move on, and I think there are doors that could open for him. And it's interesting because he does talk a lot about the WWE. Now, he does it in his Raw reviews that he has on his podcast, and he also reviews all the pay-per-views as well. So, kind of makes me think that maybe he's putting the feelers out to WWE of a potential return. And there's quite a few options, because I was tweeted an interesting scenario, and it was pitched that maybe he could be the new host of WWE's Tough Enough, which makes its return very soon. And I think that could be a real scenario with Stone Cold Steve Austin out of the picture. Someone like Taz, his kind of attitude, okay, yeah, he didn't have it in WWE, but his ECW days, he's definitely tough enough to host that show. As well, he'd make probably a good addition to the broadcast team, because we all know by now that WWE haven't got that great commentary team. I mean, we've all been very critical of it over time. And yeah, whether or not you think that Taz could be a step up or a step down, he could fill the void in terms of SmackDown, or maybe replace someone like a JBL or a Booker T at some point. So it could be interesting to see where Taz goes. But today in this commentary, I've drawn up a short list of future commentators which could partner Josh Mathews at TNA Impact Wrestling. So I'm going to give you these guys, and I'm going to give you the reasons why I think that they might make it, or maybe as well why they might not. So let's do this. No particular order. And I would love to get your views on this, see who you think potentially should come in, or who would you just like to come in. It doesn't have to be, real. It can just be, I think that this guy is the person for the job. So anyway, my first one, and it's really obvious to be frank with you guys, it's Mike Tenay. Now, I wouldn't like to see Mike Tenay return to the commentary team, but I think he's obviously the viable option in terms of TNA if they don't want to go outside of Impact Wrestling. The obvious reasons is he's done it all before, he finds it pretty easy, and many thought that he took a huge step down when he took on this new role at TNA, and potentially was kind of shafted. So will TNA have to go crawling back to Mike Tenay and ask him to return to the commentary booth with Josh Mathews? I'm going to be honest, I actually think the commentary team has been better recently with Taz and Josh Mathews. I don't necessarily agree with them dubbing their commentary. They don't actually do it live, or they don't do it at the show. They record from Nashville. I'm not keen on that, but I think it's been better without Mike Tenay. Mike Tenay name drops too much other organizations. Yeah, that's a big talking point across the commentary in TNA, but I find him very frustrating. I liked him back in the days of WCW, and I think that's because that he had people to bounce off of. So he had Tony Schiavone, he had Mongo McMichael, Eric Bischoff, numerous people there to kind of just jump in and out. And he's okay in proportion. But when it's just a lot of Mike Tenay and he's in control of the commentary team, I just find him rather frustrating. I find his voice really annoying as well. So for me, yes, the Professor has the knowledge, and yes, he's the easy option, but I wouldn't like to see him return. So that's the first one on my list. Next up, and again, it's another easy option, but it's a good alternative. And I actually think this one's a better alternative because on commentary before, Jeremy Borash did a pretty good job. And Jeremy Borash, he's quite a likable chap. I don't really know many people that just kind of dislike him, whereas Mike Tenay's got that kind of love-hate relationship. You either like him or you don't. He's a bit like Marmite, deal with it. But, Jeremy Borash would, for me, work quite well. I've heard him on commentary before. He obviously does a lot of commentating in general because he does the announcing at TNA. He's got that voice for the job. And I think that him and Josh Mathews would make a perfectly good team. They would be able to bounce off each other. And if this is going to stay a two-man team, then I think that that's a good option. Again, very easy for TNA to set up. It's not like Jeremy Borash has major, major other work to do. They kind of just use him at will. So he could easily slot onto the commentary team. And I think, this could work. If you don't want to go outside of TNA, then Borash is there for the taking. Quite literally. And plus he's got a new haircut as well, and I'm not keen on it. So, keeping him behind the scenes might work better. So, Jeremy Borash is my second option. So, guys, out of those two, which one would you rather if we were going to get a return in terms of current employees at TNA? Would you prefer Mike Tenay or Jeremy Borash? Now we're thinking outside the box, ladies and gentlemen. Because the next one is Vince Russo. And the reason why I put Vince Russo in there is because, look, you want to cause a bit of controversy. You want people to maybe think, TNA completely trying to swerve us here. And, they're no longer with Spike TV. And 90% of the issues with Russo was the fact that they were signed to Spike. Spike did not want to know Vince Russo. And anytime they found out that TNA was potentially associated with Vince Russo, they turned their nose up. So the door's open now. They're with Destination America. Sounds like Destination America doesn't really quite know their wrestling audience from some issues coming out about them not wanting to do UK tours anymore. So, if they don't have a clue what's going on, then they can bring Vince Russo back because sometimes he don't have a clue about wrestling. But he would definitely add a bit of spice. He speaks his mind quite a lot. So if they want someone that's hard-hitting and talks the talk and really doesn't, like to... Or someone that likes to ruffle people's feathers, then Vince Russo is definitely an option. He has been a commentator or a guest commentator before, and we all know that he talks a lot, and he can kind of back it up in that sense, not in the ring, but Vince Russo, as long as he's not booking it, then maybe a commentary role might be interesting for him. So that's kind of looking at the extreme side of who we could have. Next, and this one's even more extreme maybe, but potentially if he likes the product and the way it's going at the moment, what about good old JR? What about Jim Ross? The greatest commentator ever to sit in a commentary booth. Jim Ross is number one. And if you're TNA and you want to bring some credibility back to your product and everybody's criticizing them saying, TNA making mistakes left, right and center, I personally don't think they are in terms of the way that their wrestling goes on in the ring. Yes, there are a few problems outside it, but if you want someone to call the action and TNA are putting on good wrestling shows, they're putting on good matches, then why not go get JR? JR's been open to working with Lucha Underground. He's worked with New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom. So why not ask? Ask the questions, see what you get. You might get a no, but what does it matter? So JR, for me, is a viable option. They may have to put up, they may have to pay him, a little bit more than barbecue sauce, but yes, JR could be the alternative. Next indeed. I'd like to see JR. I'm just saying. So next, what about, and this one's kind of going to be, if you remember or not, is Todd Keneley. And Todd Keneley was a part of the 3-man broadcast team at TNA. And he was working with Taz and Mike Tenay. And I thought he was doing a really great job. I was enjoying his commentary. He called the moves. He kind of does a bit of a Joey Styles-esque. He's not as extreme as Joey Styles, but he definitely calls the moves. He calls the holds, but he does it in a less annoying way than someone like a Mike Tenay. And I actually really thought at that period of time, when Todd Keneley came in, it refreshed that two-man team of Taz and Mike Tenay, because, as I keep saying, I didn't really like the fact that you had too much of Mike Tenay, and he was refreshing. But the trouble was, his time was very short and sweet. He came in and then he was gone. And I don't know why. I heard there were some issues. Maybe they didn't like his style of commentary, or maybe the fact that Mike Tenay and Taz weren't too happy with him being there. But yeah, Mike, it's not a huge much to say on him, really. Todd Keneley just worked. I liked the way he called things. So if you remember Todd Keneley, or if you don't, maybe do a bit of a search on YouTube and find some matches that he called, and you might see, or you might like his style. So again, if TNA wanted to ask him, but then again, probably you might find that he may not be willing to come back. But the way I heard it was he thoroughly enjoyed his time at TNA. Now we've got two to go, and this one's different, but this one's easy again for TNA. And this one is Christy Hemme. Because Christy Hemme, I believe she has a lot to do with the Knockouts division. She's quite heavily involved with the Knockouts division. I think she does or has some sort of booking ability within TNA. She controls a lot of stuff. She has a lot of talking with creative, from what I've heard. And if that is the case, then, why not freshen it up? We've all talked about WWE using Renee Young. So couldn't someone like Christy Hemme come in and be used in Impact Wrestling? Maybe as a part of a three-person commentary team. Maybe she just calls the Knockouts matches. But there could be an option there. And I think that, again, it's being bold. It's taking that step. It's taking that move. TNA want to be different from the rest. They want to try something new. So then why not have a woman commentator on the team? It kind of makes sense. TNA keep talking about thinking outside the box, and the whole stuff with Drew Galloway of giving the fans what they want. Now, I don't know if the fans want Christy Hemme on the commentary team, but I think that possibly, again, it gives it a new dimension and makes you different from the WWE product that everybody gets hung up on and constantly loves to compare it to. So if they want to go different, then that's your option. Go with Christy Hemme. And last, but by no means not least, and this is my pick. Yes, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, because I want to see the return of Don West. Yes, and you know what? If you want to bring back Mike Tenay with Don West, I do not mind that one bit, because do you know why I want to see Don West back? Not just for the fact that he had his insane daily deals. Oh my god, do you remember them? Google them, whatever, YouTube them, you'll remember them once you see them. But the fact that Don West, his voice was very distinctive, and again, you might hate it, but let's be honest, his enthusiasm into the product was what made some of those matches back in the day of the six-sided ring, and we had, the likes of the X Division thriving. We had somebody who really just got involved, and, he believed in it. And sometimes you find with commentators these days, they don't believe in it. And that's what I feel sometimes with, the WWE commentary team with JBL and Booker T. So many outside jokes which aren't really invested in their characters and in their product. But Don West just used to just show that passion and enthusiasm and what commentary is all about. So for me, again, somebody who's been there before, somebody that enjoyed their time there, somebody that possibly would like maybe a second run at it. And again, I don't exactly know. The only issue is I don't know Don West's background anymore. He may very well be on to bigger and better things, but if they open the door, I would love to see Don West return. He's got to bring back those daily deals. So guys, that's my list. That's my rundown. I think you've got some options there, and I want to get your views on this. So who would you like to see replace Taz in the commentary team with Josh Mathews. Again, the balance with Don West and Josh Mathews would work because you've got the insane in Don West and then you've got somebody that brings it back down to earth with Josh Mathews. So guys, get involved by the comments box below. Let me know, and also pitch to me other people within the industry who you think could work as a member of the TNA commentary team. Get involved. I want to hear your views on this. It's a big talking point, and it's going to be very interesting to see what TNA do and how they replace Taz in the near future. All that's left to be said is please rate, comment, and subscribe. This is Delzinski, signing out.
Hey, this is Olympic hero Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist, 14-time world heavyweight champion. And if you're a wrestling gamer, I want you to go to Delzinski.com, DELZINSKI.com, because it's the best place for wrestling and gaming content.